All right. So it says we're live. I got to test this out because this is the first time I am personally doing this. This is a YouTube live. Like I said, I've never done this. It doesn't even look like there's a way to turn a camera off. Nothing. So we're going right for it. I'm gonna share the screen. Hopefully this works. Okay, it's pretty similar to how the other one works. But I'm gonna go right to the Fanspo Draft Simulator. Hopefully this allows me to my phone for the comments. As you can see, I was messing around with it earlier. So we are going to reset everything so this way you guys see that it is our first um, official station. Real quickly, too, before I get to this point. All right, cool. So it puts me on the bottom right. That's working. I want to make sure that this is the first time I'm doing it off of YouTube. I canceled my StreamYard because I'm doing a podcast now with Gary. So if he's watching, what's up? So yeah, let me see if the volume's working, if it's lagging, whatever. Let's see if there's any issues. I see people starting to join in now too. What's going on? Let's see. All right, cool. So this is working. I'll have my phone propped up for the chat because sharing the screen, it doesn't allow you to still see like a half screen or anything. It's more so just takes you to the other screen. So right now I'm back on the YouTube, but this is fun. So pretty much what I'm doing is, for those of you who are wondering, there may be a little bit of a delay with the camera. I understand there may be an issue there. I'm using an HP computer, my MacBook. I dropped a bottle of cologne on it from probably about this high up, and it landed right on the center, which caused for it to break. So yeah, it's I'm using an HP. It's slow as shit. It's horrible. So you're probably gonna see lag, but I am gonna start getting into this. We have a couple of people who are joining right now, so welcome. We're going to do one simulation, and we're going to do a full 2-round mock draft assessment. This is my first one I'm doing live. I've been trying to do, I try to do about 2 or 3 per week, and it's not all the same. So Brooklyn gets the 8th pick. This is how the lottery falls. I'm going to give a draft analysis on every pick. But the reason why I do about 2 no trades, I do one with the draft simulator I'm using. It's going to be rough. What's up with the Twitter? You locked it. Yeah, honestly, I'm tired. I didn't know that you weren't following, but yeah, I'm just tired of the dialogue between Nets fans currently. It has gone too far with pro tank, anti tank. 6-7 months ago, we were all on the same page. We wanted a top 3 pick, and now that there's a little bit of so-called excitement, now people's views are changing and are trying to prove the opposite point. It's just getting frustrating. So I'm not really in a mood nor a position to keep dealing with search. It's really annoying. But they're going to find out and learn eventually that if you don't fully invest in your rebuild, you're not going to do it properly. And I've been alive long enough. I'm 23. I've seen this fail. I've seen an accelerated friends who are interested in a mock draft within the NBA. Make sure to share it out to your friends. If you're a Nets fan and you want to share it out, feel free. I'm going to go over the Nets picks in depth throughout this one as well. I believe from the lottery we have 8, 19, 23, and 26, if I'm not mistaken. It may be 24 and 26, maybe 24 and 27. I'm not too sure. So real quickly, let me share this out. But yeah, this is more so just I decided to switch up the channel. Originally, this was the BK Network podcast. There was some issues that were happening a little too frequently with some of the people that I was doing it with. It came to a point where I just didn't want to pay for it, so I ended up joining Gary. For those of you who were wondering, Gary from Nothing But Nets podcast. So we decided to change it up just a little bit to the BK Nothing But Nets podcast. So yeah, we're having a good time over there. Everything's going great. I think they're going live tomorrow. I'm working around the time that they're starting, so we'll see if I'm going to jump on or not. Let's see, live mock draft starting now. All right. So yeah, here we go. We're going to get this thing started. I got the chat pulled up. So if you guys want to make any comments on picks, feel free. I'm going to try and give some assessments here and there. on certain players. I think there's certain picks that are just so blatantly obvious. And here we go. This is where the computer has its issues. Uh-oh. Okay, we're great analysis on Draft Live over there, plus Twitter. Welcome for everybody that's just joining in, though. We are officially going to start this mock draft. The Wizards won the lottery in this. This is a kid who is day by day getting better and better, which is very, very scary. He started off the season very, I'm not going to say bad offensively, but he didn't look aggressive, nor did he look like he had to do much. He was kind of just playing a role, which is a little out of the norm for, so-called Duke superstars who are, top tier prospects coming to Duke. But he's really now started to take off offensively, and I think that was the biggest question mark on him when there was that small debate between Dylan Harper and Cooper Flagg earlier in around like November, whether or not which one should be the number one pick. I think it's solidified now. If Cooper Flagg does end up going into the draft, which there's already a rumor from him stating that he wants to go back to Duke, I think that there is no world where he falls past one. So Cooper Flagg going number one, averaging 19.8, 4 assists, and 7 points. And what I watched at the beginning of the year, he's definitely gained a little bit of weight, I'd like to think. So I would probably say he's about 210 right now. He could probably get as high up to about 220, 225 within the NBA, which will be an incredible power forward type size, especially with the skill set that he has offensively and defensively. But so far, defensively, he has shown that he's an incredible shot blocker. His athleticism is something that, for a player of his caliber, is not very common, right? There's not many guys that come out of high school who are ready both offensively and defensively to plug in right away as a freshman, right? Usually you see guys come out of college who are like juniors and seniors, and those are the type of guys that you're kind of like, okay, you can plug into an NBA team right away. But Cooper Flagg is probably the most NBA ready freshman I have seen in a very long time. So his three ball's starting to finally fall. I believe over the last 10 games, he's shooting almost 40% from three. So he's definitely starting to take off in that category as well. It's definitely exciting to see. Me, I grew up in Jersey, so I was a big Kyrie Irving fan at the time, and that's why I chose Duke. So I've been kind of watching them for over 15 years now. So being able to watch him, kind of as your like post Zion superstar caliber player, it's fun to watch him and his growth so far this year. Now this is where I'm going to take a different approach, right? Because Philadelphia is up at 3. Um, you have Josh Giddey. They just re-signed Lonzo Ball. Patrick Williams was being shopped earlier in the season. They have big men, but their biggest issue is probably the wing position, right? Matas Buzelis is a player, who could develop into something solid. He's 6'9", 6'10". But I think that if they had the opportunity, we go ahead of Ace Bailey. But for me personally, it depends on the team. Same thing for Brooklyn. If Brooklyn landed the second overall pick, I think they go Dylan Harper over Ace Bailey. But in this scenario, I'm going to have Chicago select Ace Bailey as their franchise superstar at the small forward position, averaging 19.1, 1.2 assists, and 7.6 rebounds on 47.2% from the field. 6'10". I mean, there is no other comparison that you can really give him other than Tracy McGrady and Kevin Durant. That's really the ceiling that he could potentially hit in the NBA. He's explosive. The shot creation, the shot making ability, the tough shot making ability. There's some things that he needs to work on in terms of playmaking. But if you look at his playmaking so far this year, if you really watch the games, he's not as bad of a playmaker as people think. He's playing with a lot of nobodies over at Rutgers. So when Dylan Harper's on the floor, we see 30-point games from him, 25-point games from him, with 1 or 2 assists. But he's really started to pick things up, and he's also top 3 for players who are putting up 20.10 rebound games. It's him, Derek Queen, and Cooper Flagg. So that's quite the category to be in for a freshman. And that's why I have him going number 2. I really do think that he is, his floor is probably a guy like Brandon Miller, and his ceiling could be as much as a guy like Kevin Durant or Tracy McGrady. But at number 3, Philadelphia ends up falling into the lottery. Their pick was top 6 protected. They're currently listed, I believe, at 7 or 8, which would go to OKC. But in this lottery simulation, they ultimately bump all the way up to 3. And this is where I have Dylan Harper going. I think this is, it's unfortunate to say as a Nets fan, but Dylan Harper in Philly would make a ton of sense. You get to shift Maxey back to the 2. You'd have Paul George at the 3. You'd have to figure out your 4 spot, which I think is what we would use for their second round pick if they have one. But Dylan Harper is an absolutely incredible player. So 18.8 points per game, 4.1 assists, 4.7 rebounds per game, and 48.3% from the field. If you guys remember, like I mentioned earlier when we had Cooper Flagg go number one, this at Dylan Harper at one point in the season, back in about mid to late November, heading into December, was already being rumored as a potential guy that could overtake Cooper Flagg for the number one pick. I think those conversations have really died down, especially with Cooper Flagg's explosiveness. I should say explosion offensively as of lately over the past month. Um, Dylan Harper has been dealing with some injuries, which could drop him down in rankings as well. I originally had him projected number two, but again, I think it really depends on the team who is picking at 2 and 3, right? If there's a team that needs a guard more than a forward, then Dylan Harper's going to go. If it's a team that already has an established guard and needs more of a forward, then I think it's going to be Ace Bailey going number two. So it's a really interchangeable pick there. But I really like the fit here for Philly. Somebody that, Maxey's a great player, but I think his main focal point of his offensive ability is his scoring. So I think shifting him back to the two, putting a taller guard in Dylan Harper at the point guard position, I think it'll be much more beneficial. He's definitely a better playmaker as well. Number 4, and this is an interesting pick, right? Because there's two options here that I really like. I'm actually going to switch things up though. Recently, I've been having Kasparas going in the top 4, but there's been some iffy performances, and Trey Johnson's really been boosting up his draft profile. I still don't think Trey Johnson goes ahead of VJ Edgecombe, which is why I'm going to select VJ Edgecombe to the New Orleans Pelicans. They currently have DeJounte Murray, CJ McCollum, Zion Williamson, Bruce Brown, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones. They definitely don't need a forward. But I do think CJ McCollum is the next one to get shipped out along with Zion Williamson potentially, and a nice young core that consists of DeJounte and VJ Edgecombe with whatever the returns are that they get from CJ McCollum or Zion, if not both. I definitely think they could build an interesting team around them. So VJ Edgecombe is the 4th overall pick. Currently averaging 15 points, 3.2 assists, and 5.1 rebounds on 45.6% shooting. This is a guy who was projected top 5, fell all the way out of the top 5. I saw a lot of mock drafts originally in the beginning of the college season, even into late December, that had him projected around maybe 8 through 11. There was a lot of efficiency issues, a lot of inconsistencies at the beginning of the season in Baylor, but he's really started to show his true skill set, which is a guy that can do everything. He can defend well. He's the most athletic player in this class for his size, averaging 15 points, 3.2 assists, and 5.1 rebounds. He can do it all, whether it be scoring, playmaking, rebounding. He's all over the court, and I think that's something that New Orleans would definitely be intrigued to pair with DeJounte Murray, who is an incredible scorer, but at the same time is a really good playmaker. So finding VJ on lobs would be very fun in New Orleans, especially if they can find a way to keep Zion. But I definitely think CJ McCollum is the player to go, which is why you need to replace the position. And VJ here would be my pick. Utah at number 5, and this is a tough spot because it's as you can see, it says team needs their biggest one is point guard, and I completely disagree with it. If you look at their roster currently, you have Colin Sexton, you have Keontae George, you have Isaiah Collier. They have point guard depth. I really don't see the need as to why they need another, which is why I'm going to replace my pick here, which I usually do take Kasparas. I'm going to take Trey Johnson. Over the last really the entire season, he's been one of the best college scorers, especially as a freshman. He's averaging 19.3 points per game, 2.6 assists, and 2.9 rebounds, shooting roughly 44% from the field. I truly do believe he is one of the most gifted scorers in this draft class, and especially at 6'6", it's a great size for a 2-guard. So that's my pick there. My idea is Colin Sexton is probably traded, as well as John Collins, potentially Jordan Clarkson as well. So for me, Trey Johnson is a nice young replacement. Isaiah Collier has kind of shown that he's not that good of a scorer, and that could cause a lot of issues for their offense. Running a lineup with Isaiah Collier and Keontae George really doesn't work out too, especially with Keontae George's inconsistencies as well. So I think if you put a good scorer next to them, both Keontae George and Isaiah Collier are very good playmakers. And adding a 6'6" scorer to that to play the 2-guard, having one of those point guards come off the bench to facilitate the bench unit, I think that's a huge step for them. So Trey Johnson is my pick here at 5. And let's see, at 6, this is where, again, I'm going to switch things up. Kaspers is going to fall out of the top 5. This is somebody who like I said, he's shown incredible games and he's had a little bit of inconsistent games, but there's too many teams within this range that need a little bit more than just a point guard, right? Charlotte, for example, has LaMelo Ball. I don't really see them in a position to draft a point guard unless if LaMelo is moved in the offseason. There's already rumors about that potentially happening, but I don't think it will happen just yet, especially depending on what they do with Mark Williams moving forward since that trade got vetoed. Um, but that is going to be my pick here is the Mark Williams replacement. I don't think there's any better prospect at the big man position. He hasn't shown any incredible stat lines really at Duke, but it's the raw potential of Kaman Malawach that could really turn into something special in the NBA. Him, for me, I don't have a ceiling for him specifically because it's very hard to grade how he's done at Duke because he's only played 20 minutes per game, because he hasn't really put up anything too special in terms of stat lines. I believe the other night he just had 17 points and I want to say it was a double-double, but it was close to, if not. Um, so he's starting to show a little bit more consistently, but again, this is the rawest prospect in this year's draft, and I don't think there's any better place to stick a North Carolina Duke player in Charlotte as the Mark Williams replacement. So Kaman Malawach jumps on my draft board to 6, which is a big steal, or I should say a big boost in the projections based on no ceilings draft board. But at number 7, the Toronto Raptors. And again, I would have had the Raptors take Kaman Malawach, but they have Jakob Poeltl. They ended up keeping him. They just brought in Brandon Ingram. They have Emmanuel Quickley, who I do think Quickley could be a trade piece at some point. It's too early to tell really what exactly would be out there for that. But this is a team who is only 463,000 off of the first apron penalty and only 11.2 million, which they will go into, I believe, next season. Because as you can see here, Scotty Barnes is only making 10.1 million on a 6-year contract. He did sign a rookie max extension, which will bump him up to, I believe, about 35 million per year. So between his contract, Brandon Ingram's, Emmanuel Quickley's, and RJ Barrett's, you're already going to be around this total apron mark. So I definitely think they're going to have to make a move in the offseason to try and help better their depth. So to me, it's Emmanuel Quickley on the move. And I think with that, this is where you see Kaspers go. Pick number 7. I think this is a really good fit for him. Currently averaging 16 points, 5.2 assists, 5.6 rebounds on 47.5% shooting. Again, an incredible player. There's just some issues consistency-wise against good teams that I've noticed. He has struggled in a couple of games this season against ranked teams. So to me, it could affect the draft board a little bit. And again, a team like Charlotte, if they are above him, at the end of the day, their biggest need is a center if you really want to keep LaMelo Ball around long term. So Kaspers is at 7 here, currently ranked 4th on no ceilings. We're going to move on to pick number 8, and this is Brooklyn, so I'll get a little bit more in depth, and don't mind me. I've been talking for about 15 minutes straight, so I do need a little bit of a break. But this is an interesting pick for Brooklyn, right? Again, I'm a Nets fan, as you can see by the hat. But it's just nobody wants to be here, right? Nobody wants to be midway through the lottery, especially when you trade for your own picks back. I think it's, as a Nets fan, it's absolutely disgraceful to see what's going on in terms of front office management. It's complete malpractice to believe that you traded a haul for your own picks back to not take the picks seriously. I understand it's a lottery, but at the end of the day, if you look at the Nets' history in terms of trusting the lottery, it's never worked. We were the worst team in basketball the year that John Wall was the big name in the draft. We fell to 3, selected Derek Favors, traded Derek Favors for Darren Williams. Outside of that, I'm 23. I have not physically seen a top 3 pick in Nets history, right? Keon Martin was 2000. I was born in 01. So I have not physically seen a top 3 pick. And outside of that, Derek Favors pick onto Nets picks during our rebuilding years, because every single year we've given up a pick, that pick has turned into a top 5 pick, right? You have Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum to Boston. You have Damian Lillard to Portland, and you also have Reed Shepherd to Houston. So there's an issue with trusting the lottery as a Nets fan versus trusting the lottery if you have Nets picks. But to get to the next point, I believe that there is a big need for Brooklyn, even though it doesn't say it, is at the center position. Day'Ron Sharpe is a free agent. Nick Claxton has been rumored all around in potential trade rumors. I think the Lakers are going to pursue him heavily this offseason, especially with the Mark Williams deal not working out too well. Luka Doncic has talked highly of Nick Claxton on JJ Redick's podcast last year. I think there's a real connection there that could be looked into during the offseason. So with that, I'm going to select Derek Queen out of Maryland. I believe that he is the most NBA-ready big man currently out of the freshman class, which also consists of Thomas Sorber. But Derek Queen is an absolute monster, averaging 15.9 points, 8.6 rebounds on 54.5% shooting. If you watch Derek Queen's midseason tape from No Ceilings, it shows his scoring, it shows his playmaking, it shows his defense. He's an incredible mid-range shooter, a very, very similar mid-range shooter to what Joel Embiid currently is. His three ball is very inconsistent. I believe he's averaging like 16% of his 3-point shots. So it's nothing special, but it's still a sample size that shows there's room to progress. Right? Noah Clowney was a Nets pick last year, or I'm sorry, 2 years ago, and he was shooting under 25% from three at Alabama, and he is now looking much better as an NBA player. The three ball is something that's probably one of the easiest fixes in terms of development in young players. It's usually just a mechanical thing because if you're not afraid to shoot it, it means you have it in you somewhere. So Derek Queen to me, as the next Nets big man, could be a very interesting pick. Which brings us to number 9, and this is going to be the Portland Trailblazers. I think this is an absolutely incredible fit for this young man. Asa Newell out of Georgia, 6'11" power forward. Portland's building something very nice over there, especially with the progression of Scoot Henderson, their former top 3 pick, who at one point was looking like a bust, is fine to show a little bit more of that potential that we were waiting on. So with Scoot Henderson there, Anthony Simon's likely on the move. You have to figure out what's going on with Shaedon Sharpe. But they have DeAndre Ayton, who at this moment in time is a bad contract, but only 2 years left on his deal. I think that Asa Newell could be the power forward of the future for them, especially once they move on from Jeremy Grant. At 6'11", he can space the floor. I believe it said he was averaging 15 points and 8 rebounds, roughly. Apologies. But yeah, I think Asa Newell is a very, very versatile two-way type of player in this league. And like I said, at 6'11", he's a little skinny in weight, but the athleticism that he brings could be a smaller version of like a Chet. So I really like the potential that he has, especially with what Portland's building so far. So I think that's a perfect fit for them. San Antonio is at 10. Miami will be up next. And this is where I can see a player like, it's tough to really say because Igor Demon, as you can see, is still on the board. I do have him falling. Wrestling Go Crazy. What's up, man? How are you? Igor Demon is still on the board. And the reason for that is because his performances have been very inconsistent. To me, he was one of my favorite prospects going into the draft, but there's just been a lot of inconsistency issues, especially, like I said, against good teams. So I have him falling in my draft. And to make sure, we have my 11. This is currently what our board looks like for those of you who are just tuning in. To me, Igor could fall as far as 14. So it really depends on what San Antonio is looking for, right? You have Stephon Castle and you have Wemby. You found absolute gems in those 2 picks. It says severe for 4 out of the 5 positions. I don't see it being that way. If you look at their roster currently, you have Devin Vassell and Stephon Castle as your shooting guards. Stephon Castle can also play the 1 alongside De'Aaron Fox. That's 2 point guards / 2 shooting guards. You have Wemby at the 3, or I'm sorry, at the 5. They're really in need of a backup 5. But I don't see them getting that maybe until pick 15, maybe even as late as pick 40, or potentially free agency. I do think that they are. So here's my prediction with San Antonio. I think they're going to get Kevin Durant. I think a package that consists of Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, and somebody else could be and of course, all the picks that they have. I think that could be a package that lands Kevin Durant in San Antonio. Their window is now. They got De'Aaron Fox. Wemby's at the peak of his career, 2 years into his career. Already the favorite to win Defensive Player of the Year. Stephon Castle has already progressed into a incredible NBA player who, by the way, for those of you who have followed me enough on Instagram or Twitter, Stephon Castle, to me, should have been the number one pick last year. I said that throughout the entire draft process. He was way better than Zachariah Richard. There was not a debate out there that even proved that he should have gone number one. And same thing for Alexander Sarr. I think Stephon Castle blew them both away. I was very shocked to see that Stephon Castle fell as far as he did. I believe he went pick 4, even after Reed Sheppard. So Stephon Castle, to me, has always been that guy. And I'm actually really excited to see more of his progression as he continues on with San Antonio. But with that being said, I do think if they are to pack, let's just say theoretically, right? Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, and Malachi Bram plus picks as the package, right? I do think that you are going to need a backup wing potentially. So I think the best fit here for San Antonio is going to be Liam McNeely out of UConn. Um, he has been a very, very solid player defense. So I would think that this is a very good pick at that slot for San Antonio. And with Miami's pick, this is what I think is probably one of the best picks of the draft so far. And that's Jeremiah Fears at 11 to the Miami Heat. I mean, if there's a world out there where the Miami Heat have the potential to get 2 lottery picks, which is what we have in this simulation, they have pick 11 and 14, they could do a lot of damage. They're one of the best developmental organizations in basketball, whether it be with a top 10 pick or it be with a second round, a late second round pick. They seem to hit on a lot of their picks. So I think Jeremiah Fears could be the point guard of the future for them, especially with Terry Rozier on a 2-year deal, I believe. So he'll be gone following the 2025-26 season. So next year will be his expiring deal. There's really not much room for point guards on this roster. They don't have anything spectacular outside of Terry Rozier. So Jeremiah Fears is definitely a fun pick that I think could do a lot of damage for them. And with the Houston Rockets pick, this is thanks to the Phoenix Suns, who are absolutely shitting the bed this year, to say the least. They're in need of a point guard. I believe Fred VanVleet is a team option, so he could be released to hit free agency. Yeah, it is a team option. It's interesting. Do they go point guard or do they go with the best fit available? And I think the best fit available for them currently is Colin Murray Boyles, the 6'7" power forward out of South Carolina. This was a team who was previously ranked. They were supposed to be a top 25 team in the nation and completely, again, shit themselves. Like, it has been really bad for South Carolina this year. But Colin Murray Boyles is one of those gems that is just kind of getting wasted over there. He went back for his second year. But I think Colin Murray Boyles is definitely a guy who fits that Houston build, especially if they go after a guy like Kevin Durant. A likely package would include Jabari Smith. So if they need to replace that position, I think Colin Murray Boyles is the guy to do it. Currently averaging 15.6 points and 8.7 rebounds on 58% from the field. Not a great three-point shooter whatsoever, but a really, really, really good finisher at the rim, has a solid mid-range game, and is an incredible rebounder. So I definitely think this is a good fit for Houston in the style of basketball that Ime Udoka plays. And again, sorry, real quick, but with the 13th pick, if I'm not mistaken, this is the Atlanta Hawks, and there's not much buzz to it just yet, but I do believe Trae Young will be traded in the offseason. So with that, to make it very simplistic, I have the Atlanta Hawks selecting Igor Demin as their point guard of the future. Like I said, he's ranked 7th in this, but I do have him falling to the end of the lottery. Like I said, too, before the college basketball season started, this was a guy that I had who could go as high as top 5. And he did show that the first month and a half of the college basketball season. But it's just the inconsistencies against good teams has been a real issue. So Igor Demin at 13 to Atlanta as the potential Trae Young replacement. I absolutely love that for them. They kind of need a big man, but they have Onyeka as well. Clint Capella's hiring contract. They're going to have a ton of money in the offseason, so I think they'll be all right. So I think point guard is definitely the need, especially if their move is to move on from Trae Young. The Miami Heat back up again. They previously selected Jeremiah Fears, and this is a player who was projected top 10 and slips in this draft to the end of the lottery. I think, again, this is just a perfect fit in a Miami Heat system. Duncan Robinson, I believe, has a team option, if I'm not mistaken. If not, he'll be an expiring contract next year, and this could be the replacement for. And we're starting to really deal with some lagging issues thanks to the really bad computer that we deal with. I want to make sure it's not too bad on your guys' end. Um, Looks like my face is frozen, which is great. Let me make sure that it's actually working. I don't even think the volume is working, is it? Have I been talking this whole time for nothing? Oh, there we go. Maybe it just took a second for the. Okay, so yeah, it looks like the the camera's cut off, which is sick. Um, is there a way to turn off the camera? That's the question. What if I just did that? Like, there's nothing that I can do to fix this. That's rough. Well, for all of you that are in here right now, I see that there's currently 11 of you. Welcome. Sorry for my frozen face. Like I said, I'm doing this for the first time on a HP computer. It is not great whatsoever. So hopefully you guys can still hear me. I'm actually going to slap an AirPod in to make sure that our volume is still working. Chat, if you are in here as well, anybody who's in here, let me know if it's working. So yeah, let's get back to the draft though. I'll wait to see if there's any confirmation. But for me, Con Kneppel as the last pick in the lottery is a steal, especially for Miami, who could potentially have two lottery picks. So I definitely like that option for them there. One of the best college 3-point shooters currently, averaging roughly 13.5 points. I just think it's a great fit for them. And here's another interesting pick. Ben Surratt is currently on the board. I don't hate the idea. I just don't know if he goes that high. He was originally projected to be an early second-round pick at the beginning of the college basketball season, like maybe like a month prior to college basketball. But to me, I don't see him still going this high. Like there's better fits for San Antonio out there, and there's also a little bit of bias as well. So to me, at pick 15, I think they add another Frenchman in Noah Osengwu. 6'8", small forward, can also play the power forward position. We don't have any stats on him. I'm not going to go out of my way right now to do it. But from my understanding, he is a very lengthy 6'8", solid defender. And again, that French connection between him, Wemby, and the Spurs, I think it's something that they would love to try and connect with a little bit more. So for me, Noah Osengwu at 15. At pick 16 is now Orlando. I have Rasheer Fleming as the potential fit here. I really don't hate the idea of potentially going down a bit further for a guy like Hugo Gonzalez as well. But I don't think he goes that early. So for me, I think the best fit here is Rasheer Fleming. And this is where you start to see Ben Surratt fall similar to Igor Demin originally in the lottery. But Rasheer Fleming is just an absolute beast at St. Joe's this year, averaging 15 points, 9 rebounds on 55.2% from the field. He can shoot the three a little bit. Again, nothing too consistent, but when you have a player like this on the board who you can plug in immediately as a contending team, I think that that's definitely the best case scenario for them. Their biggest need currently is shooting. I just don't see them going this early on a guy like Alex Caravan or Miles Bird. There's a couple of guys later in the first round that I could see them potentially trading up for, but I don't see them really trying to take one too early. I think you have to go best available. And to me, that's Rasheer Fleming. You can plug him in immediately. The injuries that we've seen this year with Franz Wagner and Paulo Banchero, it could definitely be a good fit and a good idea to have a really high caliber wing who's NBA ready that you can plug in right away, especially again with Jonathan Isaac's injury history. I think this is a guy that could be a really good replacement. So 6'9", 240 pounds, I believe that says. I mean, it doesn't get much NBA ready than that. Minnesota at 17. It's a very strange pick. Julius Randle, you have to think, is on his way out. They have Jaden Daniels on a 5-year deal. They have Naz Reid. You have no clue what they're going to be able to do with Rudy Gobert in the near future with that contract. Dante DiVincenzo likely gone after this season. Does Rob Dillingham take the reins from Mike Conley after this season? We don't know yet. Nickeil Alexander may be on his way out. They got Terrence Shannon, who it was an incredible pick for them last year. There's a little bit of issues, though, that I have with the depth to this team. Usually at this pick, I would have Nick Clifford, but I do think that he falls a little bit because of his age. Um, I think this is a team that could take on Ben Surratt, right? You have Anthony Edwards, who is currently at your two, but you only have Dante DiVincenzo and Mike Conley at your ones and twos, and Nikhil Alexander Walker. Like I said, I do believe all three of those guys. Johnson, is that who you're referring to? Let's see. All right. Dallas is here. I may have to end this after one round because the computer is horrible. Next time I do this, maybe I'll try and link it to Gary's StreamYard. Let's see. Is this going to work if I edit it midstream? Let's see. Yeah, no, it doesn't allow me to turn off the camera. That's unfortunate. But the volume is starting to come in and out again. So hopefully it starts to work a little bit better. Again, apologies though. If you guys want to see the full link to the draft once I'm finished with it, you can check it out. Yeah, if this ever works. And it's not even showing my name on there. I'll have to get the link to this out later. So if you guys want to follow me on Twitter at NetsPressIG. But here we go. Dallas is at 18. And this is a team that is, again, it's so deep with depth. Pause, but you understand what I'm saying. Anthony Davis recently acquired Kyrie Irving, Klay Thompson, PJ Washington. These are all guys who are signed to multi-year deals. But PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, these are guys that could also potentially be traded to fill out the depth pieces a bit. Max Christie not going anywhere. That's a hidden gem for them. Derek Lively, again, another player not going anywhere. But I think that they have to kind of take best available. Anthony Davis is a primary four. He hates playing the five. So that would put PJ Washington either at the three or coming off the bench. Klay Thompson at the two, Kyrie at the one. It's a tough spot to be in for them. I really don't like the fit for Nick Clifford here. So I actually have them selecting, you know what? No, I actually do like the fit for Nick Clifford here. Let's check out some of the other prospects just to make sure. But I don't know. Like, I'd have Addo Thiaro going this high, but on no other draft boards is he going this high. So it's a tough pick. It really is. I don't hate the idea of Hugo Gonzalez. Chat, what do you guys think? Is it Nick Clifford, Thomas Sorber, or is it Hugo Gonzalez? I mean, I could see them going Alex Karaban. They're a team that's ready to contend now if Anthony Davis stays healthy. You know, a guy that could space the floor, 6'8", plays good defense. I don't hate the idea of Alex Karaban as well. Yeah, you know what? I think I'm going to give them Karaban. It's a tough spot for Dallas because, like I said, they're such a deep team. You know, I mean, look at this roster that they have. You got Oliver Maxey, Prosper, Spencer Dinwiddie on a league minimum who gets minutes. Yeah, there's just a lot of options here. You know, and the potential with PJ Washington potentially being traded, or a guy like, they just brought in Caleb Martin. Maybe Naj Marshall goes. Yeah, I definitely can see a guy like Alex Karaban going there. So that's going to be my pick for them. Alex Karaban jumping all the way up to the 18th pick. I really, really like the fit here. I don't think he's this low, but I do think he's raising up his draft stock once again. This was a guy who was projected top 5, who really performed poorly over in France and then the EuroLeague. But he's starting to pick things up. So I do think that Nolan Traore would be the pick here. 6'4" point guard out of France. A very, very good fit for what this Brooklyn Nets team needs. A guy who can score, create his own shot, shoot the pull-up three, play make like a motherfucker, I should say. He can do it all. So I like the offensive fit next to Cam Thomas here. So yeah, I like Nolan Traore. Again, I don't have specific stats for the guys who are playing overseas because they don't show it here. And I'm also not going to try and mess with this computer any further because if I was to go to a new tab, it'll probably shut down this entire live. So the Utah Jazz at 20. And by the way, too, with the Nets pick, for me personally, their biggest needs are point guard and center. I think those are the biggest needs moving into this season, especially not knowing what they're going to do with Cam Johnson. So for me, I think you go point guard and center, whether it be center first, point guard next, point guard first, center next. I think that's definitely the biggest need, especially if you miss out on Cooper Flag or Ace Bailey. Those are the only two wings I would take before going point guard or center. So Nolan Traore and Derek Queen heading to Brooklyn. Utah is up at 20. They've already selected Trey Johnson, and I actually really like the fit here. There's a lot of speculation on whether or not Walker Kessler will be on the team any longer. So I'm going to select Thomas Sorber, uh, 6'10 center out of Georgetown. This is one of my favorite prospects in the entire draft. And hold on one second as I, again, need to take another sip of water. All right. Apologies. When you talk this much to yourself, it could be a bit draining. um, but let's see. Indiana is at 21. But yeah, to go back to Thomas Sorber real quick, with Walker Kessler potentially on the move, Thomas Sorber is just one of my favorite prospects in this year's draft. I think he could go as high if he keeps up with what he's currently doing. I think he'd go up as high as maybe like 15 or 16, potentially even lottery. But if I had to put a realistic range on what his value will be, it'll probably be 16 to 21. And that's exactly where I had him at, was at 20. So again, a very similar player to Derek Queen, just can do it all. He can score at will. Inside the paint, he is an absolute beast. He weighs 250 pounds already at 6'10" for a freshman. Um, it's somebody who's NBA ready, built wise. I think he could be very dominant. But yeah, a Walker Kessler replacement would be a really good pick for the Utah Jazz with Thomas Sorber. And at number 21 now comes the Indiana Pacers. And this is where I'm actually going to have somebody jump up on my board, somebody who's starting to show a lot of progression as a point guard over at Michigan State, and that's Jace Richardson. Originally, I would have this being Boogie Flan, but because of the injuries that he's dealing with currently, he's out for the season, of course, at Arkansas. I do think Jace Richardson has a little bit more to his game than Liberian Filan does. So I do have Jace Richardson going ahead of him. Um, Jace Richardson at 21, currently averaging 10.3 points, 1.9 assists. His playmaking numbers don't really add up to what he's actually been doing at Michigan State, but this guy has the handles and let's see. Trying to die on me. All right. OKC at 20, at a top 20 pick. So let's see. With OKC, it says that they need a shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center. It makes absolutely no sense because they have so much to their roster, right? I mean, if you look at it, they got Hartenstein and Chet, that could be centers. They have SGA, they have Alex Caruso, those could be point guards. You got Isaiah Joe, you got Aaron Wiggins, you got Case and Wallace, you got AJ Mitchell, those are your shooting guards. You got Jalen Williams as your small forward and Lou Dort. Like, you have so much on this team, it's ridiculous. I cannot even stand the fact that they have draft picks. But this is the type of team that could look to make a move for a superstar at some point if Sam Presti ever stops hoarding draft capital. So to me, it's very tough, right? I think that they could go with a guy like Danny Wolf, who's, again, a kind of plug-in type of guy. Johnny Broome, another player that would make a little bit of sense for them, but also Nick Clifford. And I think that this is the pick here that I can see them taking. They have the 42nd pick. I can see them taking like a Ryan Kalkbrenner, or I'm forgetting the name on the other center. Once you see the stats of this kid as well, he's incredible. But he's a senior at Colorado State. It drops his that he can have being a 4-year guy in college. He's more of like a plug-in right away type of player on a contender. So Nick Clifford, 6'6", he can play the 2, he can play the 3, he can even play the 1. So I definitely like the versatility that this would bring to OKC. And with the 23rd pick, the Atlanta Hawks are up, and this is where I can see another potential riser based on this draft board. And I'm going to select Ian Jackson. He's been putting up some very good performances. I think kind of investing in the backcourt um, could be something of value for them. Averaging 13.3 points, 1 assist, 3.3 rebounds on 46% shooting. He's had some really explosive games at UNC, and I think he's the perfect complementary piece to a guy like Igor Demin in the future, who is a primary facilitator. And if you put a primary scorer next to Igor, I think that could be really special for them there. So they would have a young core that consists of Onyeka Okongwu, Igor Demin, and Ian Jackson. I definitely like that fit for him. And Brooklyn is up again at 24. And this is where I could see some interesting picks happening. I see it's interesting because, again, Hugo Gonzalez, another guy who was projected lottery at the beginning of the year, who has fallen outside of that potential option. Uh, it says small forward and power forward are some options that are needed for Brooklyn. And I definitely agree with those in a sense. But like I said, I did feel point guard and center were more important because especially with the wing depth that is in this draft class, I wouldn't be too worried about where you're selecting your forwards. So for me, watching some things on him, I've been really kind of primarily focusing on, uh, the American college players because there's a youth floor spacer and a very solid defender. So to me, it's a really good fit with him in Brooklyn. Um, and I like what I saw from him in a little bit of clips that I saw a couple of months ago. So Orlando back on the board. They took Rasheer Fleming, and I think they have to go with a good scorer here, but they could also go point guard. And I think Liberian Filan could be an option here, but I also don't hate the idea of a guy like, I mean, it's crazy to say because they have him projected really late in this, but I could see a guy like Will Riley, who has been exploding once again on the college level, uh, going here at 25. I do like this option, and I think that this is a nice fit for him. I do think he will go first round, whether that be 25 through 30, or if he goes just outside of the first round in the second, as like a top 5 pick in the second round. But I do think Orlando needs to focus on scoring Black. I don't see them going with another wing that isn't too much of a shooter. So for me, I think the pick here has to be Will Riley, and I absolutely love the fit for them. He's 6'8". If I had to make a comparison for him, it would surely be Trey Murphy. I just really like the way that he plays. Like I said, very good 3-point shooter. He has the height. He has the versatility. He's a very good defender, whether it be on ball or off ball. That's definitely a solid pick for them. Now, this is where it gets interesting because Washington is back up. And this is thanks to, I believe, the Phoenix Suns trade, where they sent Jusuf Nurkic to Charlotte, if I'm not mistaken. But with the 26th pick, this is where, this is interesting, right? You get Cooper Flagg. They have Jordan Poole, but he's really more of a 2 guard. They have Chris Middleton already. They have Malcolm Brogdon, who's an expiring contract. They have Marcus Smart, who will be an expiring contract next year. I can definitely see them going with the point guard route. And to me, the better option here is Boogie Flan, but simply because of the injury, it's a team like Washington. I think they could wait on him to heal up. So I'm going to select Boogie Flan here at 26. Guys who could jump into the lottery. Igor Demin has already done that. Boogie Flan did it before his injury. So I'd like to think that I'm pretty good at guessing on some of these players who are going to be really good. But yeah, with the season-ending wrist injury, Boogie Flan falls all the way down to 26. As you can see, based on the numbers, 15 points, 6 assists, 3.5 rebounds. The efficiency was horrible, 39%. He's definitely got to gain a little bit of weight in the NBA. He's 6'2", 175, a very similar build to like a Ja Morant coming out of college. Definitely not as explosive as Ja Morant, but if you look at the tape, his shooting form is pretty similar. His smoothness to his game is pretty similar. I like the Ja Morant comparison here, minus the athleticism. He's athletic, but you're not seeing him fly through the air like Ja does. So yeah, Boogie Flan at 26. And because of the computer issues, guys, I am going to keep it to just one round. It's unfortunate because I'm really annoyed. I'm definitely going to have to do StreamYard next time I do this. Um, but I will try and do one of these once a week, so this way we can keep up to date with the current state of the NBA. And I'm going to switch the format of the drafts, right? Whether it be Nets focused specifically, whether it's a full 2 round draft, a full first round draft, whether it be with no trades or trades. So we're definitely going to figure that out as we move on with doing this. But with the 27th pick, the Brooklyn Nets are back up. And this is where it could be very interesting because they have so many options currently. I'm just checking one thing here. Let's see. Okay. I wanted to make sure I had the chat open. All right. So with the 27th pick, Derek Queen, Nolan Traore, Hugo Gonzalez. So you got your 1, you got your 3, you got your 5. To me, it really depends on what they're trying to focus on. Do they select a guy who's more NBA ready in Addo Thiaro? Or do they select a guy who has a lot of potential who really hasn't shown much at the college level in a guy like Carter Bryant? I think the Nets need to focus on development with the staff that they currently have. I do absolutely love Addo Thiaro. He's one of my favorite prospects who is um, but I definitely think he also deserves a little bit better by going to a contender. So I think Carter Bryant here is the pick. 6'8", he can play the 3, he can play the 4. The stats are very underwhelming. He has not shown much at Arizona, but this is a guy who could be very similar to like a Tajon Saloon, who was selected in the top 10 last year by the Charlotte Hornets. Um, I think Carter Bryant has a better skill set than Saloon potentially. Like if Carter Bryant was in last year's draft, you could potentially see him being like a top 20 pick. So and Saloon was projected late lottery and went top 8. So there's a lot of potential within Carter Bryant. And I think the Brooklyn Nets staff could be the team to unlock that. So I'm interested to see, especially if they do land him. I saw a mock draft not too long ago that had Brooklyn taking him at 19. I think that's a horrible spot for him. Uh, again, high talented, like a high potential prospect, but for that range, I'm definitely not taking him. The Boston Celtics at 28, and this is where things can get very interesting. Um, I really love the fit for Addo Thiaro here, but they're so stacked at the wing position with Tatum and Brown constantly being healthy. I think that they need to look for their Al Horford replacement at some point, and I think the perfect fit for them is going to be Johnny Broom. Johnny Broom, senior out of Auburn, averaging 18 points, 3.3 assists, and 10.7 rebounds per game on 50% from the field. He could shoot the 3. He's efficient from the field. He's a double-double machine. You plug him in right away on a contender, and you're going to see good results. I think this is a perfect fit and a no-brainer. When you think of a guy who's averaging 18 and 11 almost in college, you're thinking a lottery pick. And because he's a senior, he's going to fall outside of that option. So for me, Boston is a clear fit for them. With the Clippers pick here, again, this is where it could get a little rough. Do they look for a potential backup big man for Ivica Zubac? Uh, their current backups, let's see. So far the chat's not working. Or voice, let's see. Okay, are we working now? This is ridiculous. We will definitely have to walk into the next one better than this. Yeah, so volume's not working anymore. That sucks. Oh, here we go. I can hear myself now. All right, so welcome back. Yeah, we will be much better prepared for our next one. Again, this is more of like a tested out type of thing. Thank God the camera finally went black. You don't have to stare at my face being frozen. Um, but yeah, I'm going to make the last pick here. I went Danny Wolf to the Clippers at 29. I think they need a backup big for Zubac, and again, a guy they could plug in right away as the backup. So with the last pick in the first round, the Phoenix Suns, I'm going to have them take Liberian Phylon. I think this is a steal of a pick for them. Cam Jones, Miles Byrd, they're going to fall into the second round. And I'm going to end it here. So I'm going to post the full link to this draft once I'm finished, because I don't think my computer can physically take a full second round. But here it is. I'm going to go and just recap the first round. You have Cooper Flagg at 1, Ace Bailey at 2, Dylan Harper at 3, VJ Edgecombe at 4, Trey Johnson at 5, Kamon Malawach at 6, Kasparis at 7, Derek Queen at 8, Austin Newell at 9, Liam McNeely at 10, Jeremiah Fears to the Heat at 11, Colin Murray Boyles at 12, Igor Demon at 13, Con Kneppel at 14, Noah Sengwu pairing up with Wemby and the French Connection in San Antonio, Rasheer Fleming at 16, 17 Ben Seraph, 18 Alex Caravan. At pick number 19 to the Brooklyn Nets, Nolan Traore to pair up with Derek Queen, Thomas Sorber at 20 to the Jazz, Jace Richardson at 21, Nick Clifford at 22, Ian Jackson at 23, Hugo Gonzalez at 24, Will Riley at 25. Let's see, Boogie Flant at 26, Carter Bryant at 27, Johnny Broome at 28, Danny Wolf at 29, and LeBarian Fineland at 30. So that's my full first round mock draft. I don't even know if you guys can hear me at this point because of how shitty this computer is. So we're going to have live. So I'm going to do StreamYard. It usually works a little bit better. I hope you guys enjoyed. Apologies for the technical difficulties. We'll come back a little bit better next week. I'm going to try and do these at least every Sunday. So yeah, like I said, hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe if you're new around here for more NBA draft analysis. Here's the full first round again for anybody, and I will post the full 2-round draft in a couple of minutes once I finish it up. I'll post it to Twitter, and I'll leave a link as well on Instagram. So if you want, follow me at NetsPress on Instagram and at NetsPressIG on Twitter. It is a locked account, so feel free to just shoot me a request, and I will show you guys the rest of the draft. All right. Now, it's going to take me a second here to figure out how to end this. So again, I appreciate you guys for joining in for the hour. Make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.